I find it to be quite difficult to get it right, this thing of imitating someone. And in our industry, I don't think it even flatters. You know, this saying of imitation is a form of flattery, that thing. I don't think anyone you try and impersonate or emulate finds any flattery in that thing, because we all kind of go on our own little individual journeys to become the people that we become.
100%.
I think it's always important to have people that can kind of show you, like, I see where you're going with this thing, and I like that you're able to think like this, but I'm not exactly picking up who's coming up with this idea sometimes. Like it feels like maybe you would have seen something somewhere and you wanna do this thing. Yeah. But it's not exactly, it doesn't feel like it's coming from you.
What's up, brother? How are you?
All good, man.
Easy.
Do that over again. Long time no see. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Man.
So who do I have today?
You have Unathi Dyani from the Eastern Cape, East London, Amalinda. Really fucking happy. Can I curse? Thank goodness. From the Eastern Cape, I'm from East London by way of Ekobako, Case Kama Walk. Are we going into a story? That kind of thing. I can do it.
Yeah.
I kind of found myself in this industry, you know, by way of people just looking at what I could do, and then it was basically like a suggestion.
So what do you do?
So I'm an art director.
On a day-to-day, when you wake up and say you're going to work, right? What do you do?
I'm an art director. I kind of help the storytelling process on the visual end of it.
Okay.
In some instances, there will be there'll be a need for me to kind of help on, well, it's more like a conceptual space, right? But I'm mainly more on the visual side. But I do have the ability to kind of think in words as well, you know? But I think we can get into that conversation down the line. But ultimately, I'm an art director. I kind of found myself here by way of someone just going, hey, I think you should be a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And I did the graphic design thing. Then I did the art direction thing. And then I did the advertising thing. And then I made some advertising, saw some advertisements, you know. And it's been one hell of a ride, man. It's been one hell of a ride.
Interesting. So currently, what project are you busy with? But before we get into that, there's always this confusion between graphic design and art direction. Do you mind just clarifying it? Because some people don't understand the difference, and there is a clear difference. And someone has once corrected me to say, hey, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm an art director.
Yeah. So Ish, you know, that's such an interesting thing, because I basically do all of it, right? The way I would see it is there is a clear distinction from it, you know? Like in some instances, I know some art directors who actually don't design. You know, they will guide the kind of visual communication of something without necessarily getting into the whole graphic design.
Yeah, so they're more conceptual.
Yeah. But it's not a lot of people that I know who do that kind of thing. And then on the design thing, you'd have, you know, someone who has a really strong understanding of, you know, things like shapes, form, typography, imagery, and some of those things can spill over into art direction as well. I think there is a need for art directors to understand what those things mean and how they work. I've been fortunate enough to be able to get onto projects where I do the art direction and the design on the thing. I do the layouts, I do all of these things. So I personally see it as though there is some kind of intersect, purely because if I'm sitting behind the computer putting those elements together, a picture with words, I am designing like a graphic designer would, but I'm also on the conceptual end, to where the idea that's coming to life is by my own hand because of understanding, you know, visual language and design language. So I don't know if that kind of clears it up, but
I get it now, because I was schooled proper. I had to get a proper sit down from an art director. Because also when I started off, I was a graphic designer, but I wasn't respected. So I was like, you know what, people think you can just turn an elephant around.
Yeah.
Like, now, why is it facing this way? It must face. Like, nah, I'm not really interested in that, because everyone thinks they are designers. I know when you deal with clients on a daily basis, right? They're probably like, maybe change this, put it there, do this, do that. And how do you deal with those kind of things?
I think it depends on who it is, man. If it's like if it's a paying client, I would assume they know what they want, right? And so if there's a thing that they want to see, I think it's important to, and I'm not saying this should be true for every situation, but I think it's important that they need to understand that, you know, we're working towards a particular vision that you have in mind. And if you are making a design suggestion that doesn't make sense, there are instances where you have to show them that it doesn't make sense, you know? I'm not too sure how commonplace that is, but there are times when I've had to do it where I'm like, look at this thing. It's not working.
Yeah.
You know? I think the trap we get caught up in as creatives, as people who kind of know better, is that it's still a personal thing, the work. You're telling me that I'm doing something that's unlikable. You know? We actually had a session today at work where there was two very talented ladies who were presenting their ideas and kind of what they like in the industry and all that. And one of the things that they said was, is this a safe space? You know, like, we are creators. This is a sensitive thing, I guess, is where I'm trying to go. And so we get into this trap of oftentimes internalizing the feedback, you know what I mean? Where it feels like you're saying, I'm not doing a good job. And it becomes difficult to separate the personality that is in you, you know, from actually getting the project done
100%.
and servicing the work.
Okay.
You know, and in some instances, maybe there are like some kind of power dynamics where someone is trying to show you who's boss type thing by saying, yo, I want this thing and you're going to do this thing. You know, there are instances that are like that. But in terms of the overall scope of the project and all of that, I think it's important for people to understand that we actually are all in service of this thing that other people are going to see. It's not about whoever's in the room. It's about, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that work is not going to be consumed by us. We'll see it.
True.
And the person who's paying you to do the thing is in some other way a representative of the consumer, the market.
Yeah.
They have come to you to say, I have this feeling, I'll say, and you can correct me on this thing, but I have this feeling that if we say this thing in this way, I'm not too sure on all the details, but if we say this thing in this way, we should have success at selling this car, this beer.
Sure.
This
sometimes it's backed by research.
Backed by research, that kind of thing, you know? And a lot of times, I'm not too sure how you actually quantify the success of the design or the concept or of the message of any of these things. I don't know how we can actually say that whatever feedback you get from your client is necessarily going to be the thing that leads to its success.
Yeah.
You know, I think everyone's just kind of guessing to a large degree. We don't know what people are going to say when they see this thing. We only hope that they like it and that they engage with the thing.
It's based on that. That's why I tend to look at what we do as we are in the psychology field, right? Because we are working on certain things that we think people are going to react in a certain way when they see them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just based on instinct and assuming, right? Backed by research, of course, but research. Unathi might react to a certain thing like this today, but tomorrow it's totally different. Yeah, I understand. Based on the nightmares you have or what happened when you got home and all those kind of things. But for me, the most important question, especially for people in your space, I've seen is it Slaying Goliath? He's David Chavala.
Shouts out, man.
Shout out to him, man. He's doing some amazing stuff. I see most of his stuff have a signature, right? And you can tell, but that's touched by David, right? And people like Kabza, when you hear his song, you're like, That's Gabza
Yeah.
or Kelvin Momo.
Yeah.
Shout out Kelvin.
That's your
But,
homie.
no, I don't even know him. I wish I do. I wish I did know him.
Well,
Right?
Calvin Momo, if you see this, look, join the show. Come to an interview.
So my question to more people in your space is, are you guys just designing to please the client, or you are designing to have your signature? I know I've seen your signature. You've done some stuff for Simba, because I know your illustrations quite cool.
Appreciate
And
it.
do you embed that in most stuff that you do?
It's really difficult to do it, man. I think the thing that makes it the most difficult is that you do have some kind of voice, but I see it more like it's that thing I was talking about of being in service of the project. You know, there will be an opportunity where we're looking at the thing and we don't know what visual language it could be.
Yeah.
So we put together a couple of mood boards here, mood board there, you know, a stylistic thing here, a stylistic thing there that goes. We can represent this thing by way of photography, you know, so we might need to get a Justice Mukeli, you know, Temba Muga sales guys. Or we could say, you know, we might need to do an illustration on this thing. We'll get Cindy, so or Unathi, that kind of vibe. Or we might actually just need this is the design aspect of things now, like a someone who's like really into graphic design, for example, I could top of my head, Jed McNeilage, those kinds of guys, you know. So there are instances where you can, for example, for me, I saw a gap with the Simba work where I could do that because we didn't actually have a visual direction for it at that moment. And so I hijacked the opportunity to do that work. And it kind of, it did really, really well. And the client was very happy with that work. But as things progress and time kind of goes, there will be a different message that may or may not work with that visual direction.
Sure.
So you have to kind of bounce around the different media of communication. Maybe the next time you do need a photographer, because, you know, the illustration you might get some content fatigue or something like that, where we can't be seeing the same thing now for a different campaign. We need a fresh new take. In some instances, it might even be depending on how simple a message it is, we might need to strip the whole thing and just have typography. Nice. Just a very hot line, you know, and then call it a day. So I think to circle back on kind of injecting a style into something, the benefit of being someone like, and I'm not speaking on his behalf, I'm just speaking from what I can guess, a David Chabalala slaying Goliath, is that I don't think he's necessarily constrained to the machine in a degree that, to the degree that he can be told to do a different thing. Maybe in some instances, I don't know his business model or anything like that. He might have to get into a different bag.
Okay.
But the brand that he has, the style that he has, the way he communicates using that style is something completely unique to him. And a lot of people like hearing that voice for what he does. Those are his people. Those are his viewers. They like that thing.
Okay.
You know
I think I get it now, because he's more of he's independent, right? So so brands go to him most of the time to say, hey, we want that signature.
Yeah.
Like when he was working with KFC, to mention just one brand. But when you work for an agency, it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah, you have to get into a more colorful bag when you're in that space. I think that's why being able to dive into different styles and to understand the different styles, the different ways, forms of expression, that vibe, it becomes important for you not to be stuck in one way of doing things. Okay. You have to almost know how other people, like we would have, let's say, a competitor analysis and whatever else it is, and look at how they do their messaging, how do they write their copy, how do they do their visuals, how do they do what is their tone, who are we talking to the same people, you know? Like there needs to be some kind of understanding when you're working full time on this thing of all these different factors that will eventually lead you to in my context, a visual language, a visual direction, you know,
And telling the story.
and telling the story ultimately.
Clean.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know you grew up in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
Do you mind just giving us a clear picture of what inspired you to be in the role that you're currently in now? Because this is your profession now, right? What bug bit you for you, a young kid from the Eastern Cape, to say, you know what, I'm gonna be an art director? I know it wasn't as linear, right? You probably had the go arounds. If you can just let us know and fill us in on that.
I love telling the story. So what happened was, I must have been like, how old was I? This is I want to say 1998. So I would have been around 7 years old or something, like maybe even earlier than that. But I can definitely remember my cousin being able to draw. And what I found fascinating about it was I was a kid who was severely into cartoons, and it was very difficult to detach me from the TV. You know, you almost had to like pry me away.
Dragon Ball Z, were you that guy?
So that phase happened later.
Yeah.
Which was a great phase. I think, you know, if you're someone who grows up in the 90s and you're probably in this space, it's highly likely that we all did some kind of fan art that we sold to other kids for like 50 cents or something like that, you know? So anyway, I never knew those things were made by people. I thought they just exist. They just play, you know, all these good things. And so this one day I see my cousin drawing a house with a person who's got feet that face this way. You know, I was like, yo, this is really cool. I mean, this is very clearly a person. I'm a person. I want to be able to do this thing. It's just like, okay, cool. Shouts out to Sbongile, by the way. That's my cousin, the one who was doing these things.
And was she much older than you?
100%. She's like, she's a good 11 years older than me, actually. Yeah. So she, at that point, I think would have been around 17, 18. And she just loved to do that thing, you know? And so she sat me down. I got a pencil or a pen. I can't remember what it was. I kind of did the same thing. And then the more I did it, the more I kind of developed an interest in doing it more and more and more. And then the more shows I watched, the more I wanted to emulate those kinds of styles. But obviously, in a lot of instances, the growth you'll have will be proportionate to your age. As in, like, I wasn't a child prodigy or anything like that. I couldn't draw real people, you know? So it was like a steady progression. So fast forward to, I want to say 2006, I'm in grade 8. A teacher of mine sees this thing. And his name's Michael Roddy. And
shout out, Michael.
Shouts out, yeah. And he says, yo, these are really good, man. What do you want to do? I said, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. So he says, you could do graphic design. I said, what is that? I don't actually know. I just know that people who do this thing do that thing, you know? And then fast forward to, I think, around 2010. This is matric year now. Everyone's kind of scrambling to figure out where it is that they're going to go, calculating points for entry into these different universities. And I wasn't too bad at school or any of these things, but I never saw myself doing the sciences or any of these things. And so I didn't focus too much on them. You know, I didn't secure a kind of plan B, so that if this thing doesn't work, I'm going back to the mathematics and all these things. I kind of banked all my stocks into this talent thing. And then I got into NMMU at the time, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in PE. So this is going to be the first time I'm living by myself, all these things with other people, sharing a commune and this kind of stuff. So I'm kind of now in a space where there's other really talented kids, really, really dope people. One of whom was actually Uluzuko Vitboy. He's art director at Ogilvy, right? And he was like my rival at that time. I have this feeling that he stopped competing with me now.
Because who's better?
He's just like,
he's
I always kind of revered him as this super dude, you know? I think you should actually have him on the show. He has a really powerful story.
Nah, I've chatted to him a couple of times.
Yeah, super amazing story. And so he was always a lot more driven than me. back in school, you know. In hindsight now, I wish I'd taken as much time to kind of focus on the craft as he did, you know. And then at some point I'd graduate from school, from university. I think 2015 was my graduation. Finished in 2014. And I was done, man. Like I was knackered. I was finished. I was just tired. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to do this work. I just want to go home, be a kid, you know, and be sent around. I'd rather that than just have the amount of stress that I had back in university. And then a young lady at that time, she's still a young lady, hey Zinzi. She said, yo,
shout out Zinzi. Boys blushing.
She said, yo, there's this thing. What are you doing? There's this program, this internship program at Boomtown. It's an internship program. They take in, it's like a BBBEE kind of thing where they get in people of color and train them into the industry. I was like, yo, I'm working at a backyard kind of print shop.
Now you were done with your studies.
I'm done with my studies. I'm back home, but I mean, my parents aren't going to have me sit there,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing anything. I kind of have to earn my keep. So
Sure.
I took up a job at like a print shop, and it was terrible. I didn't last. And then I was like, yo, I need to do this thing. So she says, just send an email to Andrew McKenzie, really amazing guy, and see if you can set up an interview and things like that. So I sent him an email. Andrew was like, can you come through on this day? Let's have a chat. And so I got onto a taxi and went straight to PE again, because I'd moved back to East London after finishing school. And then spoke to Andy, you know, everything was good. He didn't want to see any of my work. He just kind of banked on that I would do a great job, I suppose. Liked my personality. I liked his personality. I would eventually even become friends, you know. And he said, can you start in April? This is 2015. So I was
you in March.
No, so this is 2015 April. So when I'm talking to him, it was like March or something like that.
Yeah.
So I eventually left the other job that I was in. I didn't give any notice. I didn't even sign a contract to work there, man. So I was like, I don't have a contract. Let me just dash. So I left and then started working there. And then that's kind of been the journey from that point on. And there's a lot of things that I learned from them. And I worked there for, I think, around 6 years at Boomtown. And how I get to Johannesburg, and maybe we could go into it later, was there's this god of an individual, at least to me. Tulengla says he's doing amazing work right now. He says, yo, dude, I think you actually need to go and compete in Johannesburg. Go see what the guys are doing.
Is he back in?
He'd started working. He was a freelancer at the time, working with us on pitch work and things, you know. And then he would kind of now develop a relationship with the guys there, where they would call him down to come and, you know, work with us and all of these things. And then he says, yo, dude, just go to Johannesburg. It's about time. You've been here a while. I was like, I'm scared, man, you know. And then I thought to myself, yeah, like Uzo left when he was young. This guy's like 23 at the time. He comes here with nothing, and he's doing so well for himself now. And I'm also getting to a point where I'm kind of getting fatigued being in PE.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm moving as much as the other guys are, that kind of vibe. So this is kind of where Sauce and I kind of get into conversation, Luzuko, you know, both of them at the same time. They're like, actually, dude, there's a gap here at Sachi. I'm gonna put your name forward. I don't know which of them did that. But ultimately, HR would kind of get into comms with me, and then Mo interviews me.
Nice.
You know?
Nice.
And
that's where you are now.
That's how I get here, man. So he was like, dude, I like you, man. Pull up. I remember before I even knew I was going to get this thing, Tule calls me and he's like, dude, welcome to Johannesburg. I was like, I haven't seen anything, but welcome to Johannesburg. I get all these things and then I move here. And that's kind of been the ride. This is now 3 years ago that I moved here. So then I move here, right? I get to meet Mo in the flesh, Mo Linswane. Amazing writer. Like, yo. Anyway, meet Mo, puts me on some projects, and he puts a lot of stock in me, man, because I'd moved from essentially much smaller town. The frequency here is much different.
Yeah.
The rate, the work rate is much higher. All of these things, and I developed a deeper trust in my abilities, and I think it's kind of propelled me to kind of be able to do the things that I've been able to put out there. So yeah, I'll forever be in debt to Mo. I appreciate that he gave me that shot. And yeah, man, yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting story. Eh? Very interesting, and how you took the leap from a small town, because it was probably daunting for you, like to move
100%.
from PE, where you're comfortable, where you eating it to Eastern Cape, because it's between PE and what's
East
PE
London.
is
So PE, is GQ,
GQ.
yeah.
Oh, hey, me creative,
But
man.
I promise you, I hate that name. I hope they change it back.
Why
Yeah,
GQ?
Yeah, we know it as Ipai.
Epai,
Nasemondi. Yeah. Those were my.
know.
That's homestead.
Yeah. So I think, it takes a lot of courage, but I know there's a lot of Xhosa people in Johannesburg. Like the population is.
But I hardly bump into too much.
Go to Midrand, you'll see this.
Is
every second person is from the East.
Do you know what's interesting? And it's a small tangent. Is whenever I go back home, it's actually jarring, ironically, to be back home and there's one language that I understand.
At least you understand.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. Like going to KZN. Going to Eastern Cape. I went to the Eastern Cape sometime last year. And getting to a place, I'm from Joburg. I was born here, Alex boy. So I'm used to Kulmishangan ngapa, Isvenda ngapa, Sotho. You mix everything up. And then you go to a place where they only speak one language. They're like, I know that guy speaks Xhosa. Oh, you also does. Yeah. So
I guess that's actually now where the tension kind of comes back into the real thing. Is it was jarring. But thankfully I've been able to befriend people like the great Neo Mashiko.
Shout out
phenomenal
Neo.
leader.
He's amazing.
Man.
He's amazing.
Big ups to Neo. And in the beginning I was actually quite scared of him. And then I remember I was going through something and I went to speak to him about it. And this was my first time speaking to him. And he was just like, dude, actually go home, and I went home. And from there, we kind of developed this relationship to where, I genuinely would like to consider him a friend, So that kind of is the things that make it easy to kind of adapt and to not be as afraid of things and all that. And I can remember that there was a conversation we were having actually about just being out there more, as in like thinking about the big things, because you probably will do something wrong. In going that far out, or you'll do something incredibly right, but there's no way of knowing until you put it out.
True.
Now, I'm not saying put it out to the world, because there's approvals and all these things, but at least to know you went there, and the consensus in the room with everyone who's got experience with this thing was that we probably aren't ready for this thing, but at least it was out. So it gets to a point where it does get easier. But it's still, let me not say it gets easier, because it's not easy. Let me say it gets less difficult. The more you have people like that who have been doing this thing for God knows how long, and they right behind you, they support you. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like people like Verona Meyer, Kirsten Meyer, those guys are really incredible people as far as just taking the leap with you. Because everyone wants to see cool stuff go out into the world and
super
just
clean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's quite the experience to get to sit in the room with these people and learn from them. Mondes Pamela, sharp minds. Yeah. You would remember from like, I think 2022, early 2023 when Unhlanhla was even there.
Yeah,
that guy.
The guy is fire.
He's you know what I mean? So those kinds of things make you quite, it sparks a flame of aspiration where you actually want to be like them when you move on into this thing, because you can see that they really love this thing.
I think my next question is actually going to lean onto that, right? In your process of trying, because when you start off, right, especially as a creative, there's people that you admire. Don't you get lost trying to become them and lose yourself?
If I'm hearing your question, it's almost like, where does the admiration end
where
to
does
where
the,
your
where do you draw the
individuality
line? 100%.
begins? Yeah. I think it's very difficult to become another person in the creative space. If you do it, someone's going to pick up on it. Someone's going to see that this is not you. This is not, I don't get you. You feel more like this person, and it's a little on the inauthentic side, I'd say. I think you can pick up a mannerism here, a mannerism there, that kind of thing, you know, like learning how to sell something in a certain way and that kind of vibe. But I find it to be quite difficult to get it right, this thing of imitating someone. And in our industry, I don't think it even flatters, you know, this saying of imitation is a form of flattery, that thing. I don't think anyone you try and, impersonate or emulate finds any flattery in that thing, because we all kind of go on our own little individual journeys to become the people that we become.
100%. And your story is quite rich as a person.
100%.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great thing to actually point out, this like richness of your own story. Because a lot of times, you know, especially for like a self-conscious creative, for example, they might not look at their story as though they can draw from it and put it out in a powerful way that at least one person might actually say, yo, actually, that's my story too.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get out of this show.
100%.
But now I'm seeing you do the thing.
Yeah.
And I think I might do something as well. You know what I mean? So there's quite a powerful thing, I think, in that someone can hear your story and see possibility there. They might, you know, whether you know it or not, you might be some kind of mouthpiece for this
100%.
person. And then they kind of pull in a little closer, and then they learn to speak for themselves, kind of thing. And then they learn to do their own thing.
True.
You know?
True.
So I think it's always important to have people, that can kind of show you, like, I see where you're going with this thing. And I like that you're able to think like this, but I'm not exactly picking up who's coming up with this idea sometimes. Like it feels like maybe you would have seen something somewhere and you want to do this thing. Yeah. But it's not exactly, it doesn't feel like it's coming from you.
So there's this book they gave us in varsity. It's called Steal Like an Artist. And what they say, you must steal bits and pieces, not everything.
Not everything.
So steal a little Michael Jackson and this and that and that, mash it up with your own personality and then come up with something new. And I think having a unique story, right, to show that it sells. Look at brands like Ipatu, right? Theo had his story. He shared his story. And I still believe to this day, Uguti, it's not about the product you have. It's about the story you tell. Yeah. That's going to sell that product.
I completely agree.
Because all the cars can drive you somewhere. But BMW has a story that they share. Yeah. And that's why you gravitate towards them. Mercedes has a story that they share about comfortability and that it doesn't flip. But hey, we've seen it flip.
I get you, man.
Those kind of things. And just to segue nicely, Unathi, what does the future look like for you, right? And in this question, what I'm trying to pick out, Uguti, I know in our space, the future is AI. Yeah. In fact, it's the present. I wouldn't say it's the future, it's the present. And the first question I'm going to ask, do you think AI is going to replace what you're doing?
I don't think it can.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. I don't think it can. I think it might get to a point where things, how do I say this? It might get to a point where a lot more brands are opening up to it. I've seen some things that are very clearly AI go out. Yeah. You know, they go live, these things. But, you know, Ahmed actually once said this thing. We were having a conversation about it once. I hope he remembers it. Ahmed Chili, where he said, you know, the thing with AI, was it a conversation? Maybe I'm misremembering things, but, I definitely remember him specifically saying this thing where he said, there is definitely going to be a need for the human touch on a thing. We might have spoken about it, or I saw him write about it somewhere. I don't remember. But I know that's what he said. And it's like one of those things where people have tried this thing. People have tried this thing of we can do with less people and more of a thing that kind of does something automatically and all this stuff. But you can't emulate personality like that.
And stories, right?
And
like we were saying, we
stories,
all
yeah.
have our unique stories.
Yeah. But a robot telling it still has to learn how people do it. And people will adapt, change, all these things.
Yeah.
But I don't think machines can adapt like that. I think it's a great reference point you can find, and I use it. I don't use it maybe to the frequency that I should. I use it to find maybe a pose that I couldn't have thought of, that kind of thing. Or some other thing, just for like, to be able to represent an idea.
Sure.
But not necessarily to the degree where I could go, let's not work with these people because we've got this AI thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't translate the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think AI can do what you do? Like in terms of the illustrations that I was talking about? Or would it miss a certain flair that Unathi has?
So it can, because it has to learn what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I understand AI is that it picks up everything that exists on the World Wide Web, and then it kind of
you can feed it.
and you can train it.
Yeah.
I believe is the term that these guys use.
Train.
And then it'll do the thing. And then in some instances, it might just be a matter of, okay, let's go with this thing. This is good enough. Let's do this. Some people do that, where they say,
okay,
this is good enough. Yeah, let's do this thing. Because in some instances, people have families to feed and all these things. So working with them will come at a certain cost that might not be within a budget, for example, But I think that the human hand, the human experience, the human story, the human will always be way more special than the machine. You can collect as much information, but you can always only adapt to the information that a human gives.
Yeah.
But a human adapts at a much different level, I think.
Yeah. Like Pepe would say, we have the heart and it doesn't.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's my stance on the thing as far as where I am now. Maybe we'll have a different conversation about it later and I will have changed my mind. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clean. So what does the future look like for you? What do you have planned? What's on the roadmap?
So if I must be honest with you, I hope I can move up the ladder to occupy a position like, let's say, creative director, move up, maybe ECD, like the typical cookie cutter progression. I hope I can get to do that kind of thing, but I also have to accept that things work the way in which they work, insofar as the progression is only insofar as what my story allows.
Sure.
And I'm not necessarily in a space where I'm trying to, how do I say, rush the process to get to those positions, so I'll kind of see where the cards fall. The only thing I can do is just be about the thing that I do and do it as well as the people who do those things.
Yeah.
So
I think thrive to be the best. They'll notice you.
Yeah.
And then for you to get whether a creative director role or ECD role, it will be a no-brainer. Yeah, because I've seen your work, bro. Your work is amazing.
I appreciate
your work is outstanding. And yeah, it was lovely having you. Is there a question that you would have loved me to ask you that I didn't ask, actually?
I think maybe we can save it for a different conversation.
Okay.
We can save it for a different conversation. But if I were to ask you anything, I would ask you this same question. What does the future look like for you and the platform and the work that you're doing?
This platform, color space.
Well, anything within the thing that I believe is your purpose.
Yeah.
Because I know your work as well. Like we've been in the trenches, man. I've seen your work.
Yeah.
So what does the future look like in terms of that for you?
Unathi, that's a very interesting question. I never get that question, but for me, dog, I think I've always been in the tech space, low key, right, with the color space platform. I know I've told you about it. It's more about stock photos, selling stock photos of Black people, because we feel that they are not represented in the current stock industry, right? Where they use pictures from America to sell to South Africans. We don't resonate with that. So it's pushing that platform more, getting more people to recognize that there is business in stock photography, right? By that, I mean myself and Cyril and other people. If Pilani, if you know Pilani, maybe you'll meet Pilani one day. If we can work together to try go into different townships, right? I think we want to start in townships because that's where the highest unemployment rate is, where we train kids to use their smartphones. Smartphone is the most powerful weapon that they have in their pockets, to use those smartphones to take everyday pictures of their surroundings and put that on the platform and sell it. Because that's what brands are looking for on a daily basis. That's why AI is able to replace certain things. They want to replace photographers with you just prompting what you want. But if you were to get it from someone and you know that the money that you're putting or buying that image with is helping someone buy bread, I think I would have played my part, man. If I can do that, achieve that, and get as much young people on the platform earning, then I've played my part.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah. No, Unathi, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for blessing us with your story. Story is unique. And I hope it inspires someone out there, whoever wants to be an art director, whoever wants to be the next Unathi, because you don't know who you are inspiring, right? So whoever's going to watch this episode that's in AAA, Vega, UJ, whatever university, or even just chilling at home, but they have the right tools, they must know how it started with you. And it wasn't that easy. And they have their own story and they need to embrace that story. So thanks for pulling through.
I appreciate it.
See you later.
See you later.
We never say bye. We just say see you later. Yeah. Ciao.
Bless.